So as we speak, the U.S. House of Representatives is debating the articles of impeachment surrounding Donald Trump. The vote is expected later today, and that vote will almost certainly impeach Donald Trump, sending it to a Senate trial. Now, that Senate trial is unlikely to actually convict Donald Trump, given the Republican majority in the Senate, but this is a necessary day for American history and an important day for American history. What Donald Trump has done, as outlined in the articles of impeachment, but including many other things that aren't explicitly in these articles, all more than warrant his impeachment from the office of President of the United States of America. But the thing here we have to talk about is how Republicans are reacting to the news today. First, you have Donald Trump on Twitter having an absolute meltdown, in all caps, basically saying this is a conspiracy theory, an attack on democracy, on America, on the Republican Party, by the radical, do-nothing left-wing Democrats. And it shows a man who's not only perpetually absurd, and we all have a good laugh about Trump on Twitter pretty much every day, but it shows a man in desperation who knows he's about to be impeached, who's confident that while he won't be removed from office, will have his improprieties shown for the whole world to see during the trial, and he's lashing out in his typical desperate style. But more than just Donald Trump, you're hearing in these debates, and you're hearing on conservative social media and online media and mainstream media, a few arguments that are trying to paint this as a conspiracy against Donald Trump, and each of those arguments are absolutely ridiculous, and I want to outline some of them. One is the argument that this is all based on presumption and there's no real evidence here. And I don't need to spend a lot of time on that. The evidence is crystal clear, and it's actually quite rock hard. The evidence here clearly shows that Donald Trump used his office to pressure a foreign government to spy on one of his key political opponents to try to gain a certain advantage. And that to do that, he tried to withhold money approved by the Congress of the United States, the duly elected Congress, to that government, the Ukrainian government, to hold as leverage over that country so that they would spy on Biden to try to help Donald Trump win re-election in 2020. That is crystal clear. That alone makes impeachment, in my mind, unavoidable. And the House of Representatives would be derelict in its duty if it didn't impeach based on that information alone. This is rock solid. Even compared to the Nixon affair, where things were more disconnected, were more circumstantial, impeachment there was clearly needed. Here, it's much more direct in terms of the president's involvement, and it's much clearer given the evidence we have. There is no way you can call this circumstantial evidence or evidence without merit or anything like that. The second thing the Republicans are trying to argue is that this is a desperate Democratic Party attempt to invalidate the 2016 election, to take away the votes of all those people who wanted Donald Trump to be president. And that couldn't be further from the truth. None of this is about 2016. None of it at all. The particular articles here are about recent actions undertaken by Donald Trump while he was president. Nothing here is trying to claim that Donald Trump holds the office of president illegitimately, that he doesn't deserve to be president. Rather, it's trying to argue that because of the actions he's undertaken as president, the office he rightfully holds, he is no longer meritorious of that office, and he needs to be removed because of his actions. So it's not trying to delegitimize Trump as president in terms of his election win in 2016. Further to all of that, it doesn't in any way invalidate the election because, of course, if Donald Trump does get impeached and he does get convicted by the Senate and does get removed from office, well, who becomes president? Mike Pence, the person who was also on Donald Trump's ticket in 2016 in that election. If the election was being invalidated, then Mike Pence would not be Donald Trump's successor. Again, this is not about the invalidation of an election. Much like with Richard Nixon and even the Bill Clinton trials, it was never about disputing how they arrived in office, but rather the conduct they took while they were president. It's not about elections. It's about conduct holding the highest office in the land. That's what this is about here. You can agree or disagree with impeachment, but to make it about the theft of votes is 100% BS, and it's actually quite irresponsible to try to make this about a theft of democracy, when at the end of the day, if anyone has tried to distort the democratic process here, it's Donald Trump trying to get a foreign government to spy on one of his potential 2020 opponents. And finally, one of the big themes I've heard from the Republicans talking today is that this is a one-party impeachment process, that the Democrats are basically operating entirely as one party, and that this is a purely partisan impeachment process, and that other impeachment processes were not purely partisan, and therefore this one is especially egregious and is especially damaging to the American Republic. But ultimately, I don't think this argument actually helps the Republicans. This doesn't make the Democrats look bad. This makes them look bad. The fact that this is almost exclusively Democrats makes the Republican Party look bad. Not to romanticize the 1970s Republicans, but when Nixon was being impeached, many Republicans did the right thing and went against their own party and actually challenged the president and supported the process of impeachment. It was not a single party process with Nixon. And here's the thing. The evidence against Trump is clear. And so the fact that basically no Republicans in the House or the Senate seem to be willing to support this is a sign that they are putting aside all pretense of decency and justice and due process and respect for the Constitution in favor of defending their president, in favor of defending their party, and in favor of standing up for their partisan interests rather than the interests of the whole country. That's the simple reality. And you can see it in the media as well. Back in the day, in Nixon's day, basically all media sort of agreed that what Richard Nixon did was wrong and that we need to follow through with some sort of actions with consequences because America may not recover if he's allowed to get away with it. And the public and Republicans and Democrats and the media all agreed. Nowadays, due to the right-wing echo chamber that exists on Fox News, on social media, and in online media, there is this effort to basically assert that Trump did nothing wrong and that there's no need for this process and that the Democrats are trying to destroy democracy. So that's why this is a one-party process. Because Republicans are operating in an almost cult-like mentality, because right-wing media echo chambers don't allow large portions of the population to actually hear the truth, and because Republicans are not doing their duty as other politicians had done in the past to actually look at the facts at hand and move towards impeachment when impeachment is warranted. So again, this is a crucial day in American history. The Democrats are doing the right thing. They are not being overzealous. They are not violating the spirit of democracy in the United States. If anything, they've been too lenient with Trump. They've been too slow to move towards impeachment. But here's the thing. Don't forget that when you hear these Republicans talk, whether it's Trump's meltdowns on Twitter or whether it's Republican talking point lies, know that they're absolutely desperate, that they don't have a leg to stand on, and that whether or not Trump eventually gets removed from office, he has lost this debate. History will judge him very harshly, and history will judge all those who enabled him just as harshly and maybe even more so.